Yo, what's up, guys? Surely it can't go any worse, right? Right? Hopefully. It probably can. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I don't really like this start. I don't want to lose this. I don't care about removing a card. Like 3 potions also doesn't really seem like it's that great of a start, but whatever then. Guess I'm going with that.
Select your god.
What do I even feel like playing? The usual question. I mean, if this is a Wukong in solo, I definitely want something with some kind of self-heal. I'll do a Nim game. It's been a little while. I'll just respond with my 3 then, if I'm gonna get slapped all game. Oh yeah, my camp is still on, whoops. Let's remove that. That ain't on anyway. Just laying on my table. Face down. Then I can also fix this. Actually put it in the middle again. I think the goal for today is at least just to get back into, what is it, Demigod? Or whatever at 5k is. Because I lost so much in the last stream. A depressing amount on my birthday. Did not get a birthday buff. A merchant? I don't need you. What the fuck, man? Probably a beats game. There's a lot of shit to beats in that team. And it is a Wukong solo. I might just do a safe start, because I don't think I win the early game anyway. Just want to make sure I don't fall behind. We'll probably just win by wave clear. Assuming it is int. Could go brawlers this game as well. They do have a lot of... well, not a lot. They have a raw. But would be easy enough to proc. I didn't even really think what build I want to go with. I haven't tried the lifesteal build on her, if that's even worth it.
Minions have spawned.
I don't really strike her much as an auto attacker. In Smite 2, it's just fucking hard. Feels like a lot more of a ability spammer. So I'll probably just keep doing that. How the fuck did that hit me, bro?
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scale.
Should with my dash.
Judgment is my domain. Is all I need.
And the Wukong wave clear. It's actually just unbeatable at level 2 and 3. Too much one-shot nonsense.
There's no running from me.
Be careful left.
Just burned through all my pots so fast.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scales. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Let's settle this with style. My style.
Did you go double pot as well? I don't think he did. He didn't, so that's literally just...
Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me.
Fuck, dude. He was moving weird.
Ally has been slain. The rain shall wash them away.
One strike is all I need.
Suck.
Probably gonna have to clear this fast.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Enemy missing.
I think I just go pendulum. Pendulum, regrowth. What else?
There's no running from me.
Enemy ultimate. Okay.
tip the scales. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Let's settle this with style. My style. One strike is all I need. Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me. Let's settle this with style. My style. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Let me tip the scales.
You.
It's lights out.
Fuck it.
There's no running from me.
Unfortunate.
Judgment is my domain.
Fucking pots heal too much, man.
Tower is under attack.
Though I suppose that's also why I'm alive.
Balance is overrated.
How did that not hit
Let
me?
Tip the scales. One strike is all nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Not
Enemy
dead yet,
has been slain.
but keep dreaming.
On my way. Gank.
There's no running from me.
Hasta la vista, amigo.
Judgment is my domain.
Hit me!
Aegis.
I wanna heal.
Your left tower is under attack.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Enemies in right lane.
Didn't expect the raw.
Enemy missing middle. Your right
Yes.
tower is under
Enemies
attack.
in right lane.
I mean, I could have been Thor as well. We both overstayed super hard. It's just he had the rotation coming, and I guess I didn't. That really sucks. I lost a full wave for that.
Attack.
Why Ra of all things too? Would have been nice if my ult was up in time. Could have been potentially a 2v1 situation.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Your right tower is under attack.
There's no running from me. Balance, let's settle this with style. Let me tip the scales. Style. Nowhere to hide.
Enemy missing.
Ha!
Get out of my lane, please. There are so many people here all the time.
Your left tower is under attack.
This sucks, man.
There's no running
Right
from
tower
me.
is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. Enemy spotted. Okay.
I mean, the worst part about being into a Wukong is that he's impossible to gank.
One strike is all I need. Let me tip the scale. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Let's settle this with style. My style.
Well, that sucked.
Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me.
Wukong beats. Ah, I missed the bush. That sucks.
Be right back. Your middle tower is under attack.
tip the scales. One strike is all I need. Nowhere to hide.
Let's focus on farming for now at this point. Not really much else I can do. Definitely don't want to keep dying.
My style.
Hope the remainder of your birthday was good. I mean, it was good on stream too. It was just a little rough at times, you know. Fun fucking character, man.
Wash them away. Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Enemy has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
There's no running from me.
But yeah, it was. I was chilling with Hades too, and I mean, to no one's surprise, I am definitely in love with the game. But I also really loved the first one, so it's not a huge surprise. I expected to love it.
My domain.
How many times is Rock gonna show up for me? So it was great, and I mean, I took yesterday off as well, just to kind of relax. I don't think I can play Smite every day right now. I don't enjoy the game enough to do that. I'll just absolutely not. Like, I'll just burn out.
Enemy missing right. Cancel that. There's no running from me.
I think the meta right now is really boring. A lot of this, especially in solo, we just go devils and shit. The constant devil shit that I have to deal with in solo is so boring.
Your left tower.
Just pure lifesteal meta in solo, and I hate it.
Your left tower. Retreat left lane. Enemy
Let's settle this with style. There's no running from my style.
No, man. What is that pause? Fuck. But yeah, I mean, Snotty, it doesn't matter what I do. I literally cannot win. We'll see. This is my first game of today, so we'll see what happens. But I literally just cannot win. I keep losing the team diff every single time. So, and I'm not even blaming my team, like, even though it kind of sounds like that. It's just, it sucks losing the coin flip, even though you have, like, really good players on your team. That's just how it's been the last few streams. So, I'm absolutely still down to duo queue, if you're interested, but it was obviously pretty rough last time.
Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy ultimate down.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Enemy spotted. Retreat left lane. Balance is over. Let me tip the scales. Justice.
It's fine. I wanted to make sure he died.
Sometimes.
Maybe get a tower for it. Probably not, though. He is int, after all. That's okay, though. That's also one of those cases where ulting just isn't worth it. Not only was I out of mana, I couldn't anyway, but it's not gonna do anything. What is happening in duo, though? I have noticed that it's not going very well. Oh my god.
There's no running from me.
Out of the park.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me. Balance. Let me take the scale. All will fall. I'll be wrecked.
I should have surrendered. I think I'm pretty over with this game. Literally nothing is being done in my lane. Or around my lane, it feels like. Can't really play very well as a nemesis this game. Fuck, man. What do we build on front lines? I feel like I haven't built front lines in a long fucking time. Can't go wrong with Sanguine, though.
Your right tower is under attack.
The thing is, though, I'm pretty sure we win this game if we get late game. Just because we have Shibbolonke. With this int stuff.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Your right tower is under
Nowhere to
attack.
hide.
Oh, very strong.
Let's settle this. Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me.
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
One strike is all I need. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Fabuloso.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scales. There's no running from me. Let's settle this with style. My style. Judgment is my domain. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
It's still insane to me that they haven't done anything to nerf into Wukong. Like, legit.
Balance is overrated. There's no running from me.
Bro, how many times do I have to fucking ult? How many times do I have to press ult? You can even hear it go off. She says her fucking line. What are we talking about, man? Jesus Christ, Hyris. Why is she saying it if it's not going off? Don't get it. Guess I just gotta stop fighting. Dude, that's a 5 level difference in duo as well.
There's no running from me.
DP just has that aura. Yeah, it's crazy how every int Wukong has that aura. Wild.
Nowhere to run.
So
nowhere to
skilled.
hide.
Somehow all my games on int Wukong are also really good. It's definitely because of my skill, right?
Let's settle this with there's no running from me. My style.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
I still, every single time he's open, will never understand why people don't just ban the Wukong.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scales.
I'll definitely down to surrender this one. This feels like a lost cause to us. We're so far behind as well.
Strike is all I need.
Enemy has been slain.
Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me. It's lights out for you. Balance is over. Judgment is my domain. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Yo, I already bought F7. It's missing.
Running from me. Tip the scales.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
I don't know who didn't vote actually, but I'm definitely down just to get out of this. This feels not good. It's absolutely cooked. Alright, now all I can really hope, because I've lost so much now. I don't even know how much I actually lost for that. I need to check. Do I still lose 70 for every game? That'd be great. That would be fantastic. Can't really see that yet. That does seem to be the case, though. That is insane. If I'm still losing 70. I think so. Yeah, I mean, high risk. It's almost like they want the game to die at this level, because it feels terrible to lose. And I mean, you need 2 wins to make up for 1 loss. It feels terrible. Like, it's by far the most unsatisfying situation this might do has been in. Even though it's not the worst meta, but it's just strange to me. Sure. Guess I'll just go back to playing mages. I do think what I hate about playing frontlines right now is that there are too many things that act like a mage. In this case, something like Wukong, like Suki. Like, there are other things that just act like mages, essentially, or deal mage damage. But they're not, like, technically mages. And if you ever meet anything like that in solo, it feels like you just lose. Like, Wukong literally just beats anything. Not necessarily early on, like some things he would beat early on, like actual tanks. And it's not like he won against me in lane either. I started losing after his whole team started babysitting, but it's so weird how much damage he does. Iris feels so disconnected with what's OP and what's not. The fact that he hasn't been nerfed at all since his release is fucking insane to me. He's by far one of the most unbalanced characters in the entire history of Smite 2. Just the way he functions is so wrong. Oh my god. I'm losing the RNG in this shit too. That's fantastic. I might lose this run very early. Shit is so cooked. Don't even know why I used some energy there. How am I already tilted? I don't understand. Kinda sucks we're both 1 HP for 2 minutes and the rock comes out of nowhere. Someone was bound to show up eventually. We were definitely playing that really stupid, that engagement. It's only a matter of time before one of us got punished. And the sad truth is, Nemesis of all fucking things is apparently easier to gank than Wukong, but that is obviously how things go. Fucking Wukong is fucking impossible to gank. You need like all the CC in the entire game to gank a Wukong. And the damage to follow up on it. Let's do this. No, why an elite? Why didn't I look at the map? Fuck, I don't think I can take an elite right now. And this guy, yeah, I'm cooked. I might be cooked. So yeah, I can't play skills into him, that's the issue. So no blocking and stuff, because he just gets stronger with that. And why am I even... I'm not even showing the game. Just sitting here talking to myself. That's a skill, can use that. Oh. I mean, I want to try this, so I'll just do that now. Hey, Nectura. Ugh, I'm so tired today as well. I overslept. Oh, gotta put on the aspect. I mean, wait a minute. Am I against Fenrir? That would be a really bad matchup for me. Normally, I think that's fine, honestly, but... that's not a good matchup for me in this lane. Have played Cheap Aspect solo before? No, I mean, this is... It came out yesterday, right? I didn't play yesterday, so... I am just going purely off of trying out new stuff. I have no fucking idea how to play it, but... I mean, I think I know how to play it, I just haven't done it before. So it will probably be sloppy in some way. What am I against? Okay, it's Fenrir support, thank god. Okay, I'm against Sobek. Whew, dodged a bullet there. Surely Sense is better than Conduit for this. I don't know, I might go Lifebinder. I like Lifebinder, what can I say? It helps getting through the early game. And this is definitely an Aegis game. Mage build on a Hunter? Well, he's Aspect, so you have to go Mage. In the Mage, or in the Aspect, he is a Mage. Same thing with Acne is a Hunter in his Aspect, you know? Goes both ways. What is this blasphemy? It's Might 2. That's what it's called. It's blasphemy all over.
Minions have spawned.
Two does so much, but your wave clear is non-existent. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just level my 1, I think. Maybe not at level 1, but I think I'll level my 1 first to see how that feels. And if that feels like shit, then I'll probably just level 2. So I at least have... What the fuck are we doing, man?
Chill, bro. I was just pulling your leg.
We're invading? Holy moly. We need that SR, bro. If we don't get that SR, we're fucking dying. So we're here for yapping? I mean, what do I mean? It's not like I can stop it anyway. It's fucking impact anyway. This lane should be free. It's fine. He has no game plan. clear here though. The thing is, right now, invading is probably one of the best strategies you can do in solo, because so many people, especially in ranked, do not go Sunder. Like, at all. Sunder is such an underbought thing. Alright, just back. I want to try Lifebinder. This might be complete shit, but yeah, it's fine. Lifebinder still isn't bad for damage. It's completely fine. With zoning too, damn.
Your right tower is under attack.
It's pulling out all the stops.
You're looking a lot like Chump. Incoming left. Ally has been slain. Okay.
It's okay, my wave is winning. I mean, living the one doesn't seem bad for wave clear at all.
Enemy missing.
Seems very viable.
Your right tower is under attack. On my way.
It's alright, I'll leave my blue for now.
Enemy missing.
Bro, Loki was here too.
Under attack.
Impact is playing it like the biggest pussy in history. God damn. It's gonna be a jungle diff again, isn't it? My jungle is never gonna show up in my lane and their jungle is gonna sit here. It's terrible.
Ultimate is ready.
Hello, Bicosmic, good to see you.
Your left tower is under attack.
I mean, at rank 2 it kills archers. I think leveling the 1 is actually kind of good. For wave clear anyway. For fighting, probably not. It is wave clear that can be blocked though, which is only really like something that really happens in solo. It's gonna sit in the bush and camp again. Wild. Surprisingly not the case.
Yes. Enemy missing left. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Maybe that's enough. Maybe I don't need to level my 1 anymore. That should be fine for wave clear for now. I think getting the 2 just for potential fights is the most important thing.
I admire your zeal.
Emir, can you stop doing my fucking jungle, please? Why are you so fucking dumb?
What's even happening this game? Looks like it's going worse somewhere else than my lane.
Completed.
Alright, let's get live binder.
Strength is on my side.
Now my life should be just a little bit easier. I got an ult for my team as well. That actually might have been an extra kill. If,
Be careful behind us.
Enemies incoming.
absolute shit ult from me.
Wait to tell people what I did today. Why you gotta be so stalky? Your middle tower is under attack.
Weird ult. Wish I had my ult for that triple kill.
Your left tower is under attack.
I'll throw a laugh out for all this shit I've been through this game. Honestly, anyone that invades at level 1 deserves to be laughed at the rest of the game. I'm saying it. Because you might not have seen it, but he invaded me at level 1. That deserves some prison time.
Be careful.
For a second there, I also forgot that my 2 gets reset. So I'd evade you every single match, every single buff. You can only do that if I don't have Sunder though. If I just go Sunder, if I know you're gonna invade, I'm going Sunder, you know? Then it becomes predictable.
Has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. The Pyromancer has arrived.
I admire your zeal. Attack the gold fury.
I pressed the wrong button, bro. I pressed my E instead of my 3. I'm so mad. I don't think I should have died at all there.
I prefer to leave the dying to them.
Whoops. I should have Aegised and then instantly dashed. That's actually all I had to do. Oh, fuck. Hey, Poseidon, good to see you. It's going pretty shit today so far. Literally been one game and I'm tilted off the earth. And then the first thing that happens in this one is that I get invaded at level 1. It's literally just been shit on shit today. Might be a short stream. It's been fucking tragedy today.
Enemy missing left.
Right lane.
Your left tower is under attack. Wash them away. Your middle tower is under attack. Enemy has been slain.
That's nice.
Tower has been destroyed.
Fuck, what do I build? I kind of want more cooldown. I'll try Gem of Focus, but it kind of sucks when I have Life Binder. I bought the item now, though.
I'll attack.
In range, wash them away. Enemy has been slain.
Incoming.
Let's check their buffs before I do anything else.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
Hit like a baby. Fabuloso.
I don't even want to ages it. How did they... Dude, what even happened? They were 4v3, but I guess they used a lot on the 2 that they had killed, but I don't know how that went so bad as it did.
Your right tower.
And I shouldn't have rotated, I guess. I should have just gone... Whatever. I'm so tilted!
Enemy team.
I'm so unbelievably tilted today! I had a good morning!
Your middle tower is under attack.
One game did so much to tilt me, it's actually kind of insane to me. I didn't think I was that weak-minded. Get up, do stretches. I already did this morning, though. Whatever. Time to just play super selfish and just don't do anything. I think is a bad idea. Granted, every time I say that, it changes nothing. But maybe one day it's gonna work. I'll bait myself into thinking I'm actually gonna do that. What's my ult cooldown? Dude, ult cooldown is actually insane on Xbal. What the fuck? Okay, I definitely don't mind going cooldown. Even if it's just for that.
Be right back.
Okay, Loki's here. I'm so annoyed that I used Lifebinder on the wave thinking no one was going to be close because I saw Sophic was around mid. Then Loki shows up and I don't have Lifebinder then. I don't know if I'm playing stupid or if I'm just getting fucked by timing. At this point, it doesn't even matter. I'm tilted anyway.
Your right tower under attack.
Careful, right?
I need some deep breathing and meditation. I don't know if that would help. I feel like I'm... well, my Thana is doing my waves.
Left lane. Enemies incoming right.
Okay, and I accidentally jumped and pressed this shit.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower. Your right tower is under attack.
Like, why is Thana... Why was he in right? They're definitely just baiting. I think I got him.
No problem. Retreat.
Thanks.
Your left tower is under attack. Attack the fire giant.
Actually, I should probably get...
Your left tower is under attack.
whatever, some pen.
Retreat. No, bravo.
Yeah, I'll go up short next for sure.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy ultimate down. Enemy missing left.
Right back. I'm going to quiet.
We're just getting tower here, so I'm fine with that.
On my way. An enemy has been slain.
Gank, how do you do?
Attack the fire giant.
On my way. Behind us. Wash them away. Be right back.
Be careful, middle.
No problem. Enemies at the Gold Fury. On my way.
They're pretty poked as well.
Defend.
I can no dash for a little bit.
Enemy has been slain.
I think we can do pyro. Care to Kukul's ult.
He won't get close enough, it's
It's no
fine.
beats. It's no beats.
Nice job, guys.
Enemy missing.
Be right back. I stand ready.
Because I'm solo and because I'm building somewhat, I guess, weird anyway, I am tempted to go Helm of Darkness and get all the way up in their asses and get a good spread with my 2. Because even if I die for that shit, it should be worth it.
Okay. Enemies in right lane.
The rain shall wash them away.
Agnes still right, can we just go fire?
The fire giant.
Yeah, we can do that.
Right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Subix behind, I can't back.
Enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Your right phoenix is under attack.
Too bad. Go full push right, I think. Nice job.
I mean, what was that, 760 or something? Not bad.
Enemy tower.
Spreading their asses? Yeah. That's the plan.
Your middle tower is under attack. Destroy the right enemy tower. Retreat!
Attack middle tower.
Has arrived.
Nice job.
Middle enemy tower.
I have beats, so try to.
Does some good damage.
Nice job, Agni. Run. Oh. I need some heal.
I can handle this. We should go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an ADC, I don't think this is gonna do anything.
Yeah, we can do gold, I think. Careful. Nice job. You want to do the Phoenix? Okay. Behind care.
You got absolutely
Go
destroyed.
gold, go gold. Nice job.
Well, I'm unstoppable now. So 7 kills in a row. Nice. I'm doing so little damage to this, it is kind of criminal. And now I'm finishing rot. And another full item. What am I building? Soul Gem? I'm kind of thinking Divine Ruin, I don't know. Soul Gem is probably just the best option in general. Murden? I saw people saying that this should be really OP with Murden, but I don't know, bro. I feel like you just want to get as much power as you possibly can. I don't know. Let me make it. Oh my god.
I wanted to touch him.
He's slowed. I should just ult him up, just for the slow, honestly. Like, it's a 40-second cooldown for me. Wow, I did nothing that fight.
Completed. My masterpiece isn't complete.
Wash them away. Destroy the left enemy tower.
No, I would have really liked the red buff. My main issue is that I keep kind of fucking up the combo. I keep using my ult just as a normal use instead of using it for the double too, which I should be. I mean, so far it's working fine with just one, but maybe there's another reason to go Murden, actually. I just think Murden's base stats are so fucking shit, man.
This jungle buff.
Yo, I don't him like, hello?
Enemy has been slain.
I mean, one does like 1.3k, bro. What is that? Oh, it's the fucking ward. It's like, huh? No, I wanted to do the combo on Kukulkan before we had the...
GG guys.
Victory.
I actually ended up getting top damage in the end as well. No, it's completely busted if you get late game with him, for sure. It is pretty fun. I like it. But it's definitely another one on the like Wukong scale where if this character gets late game, you just... It's not fair, man. See how powerful deep breathing and spreading asses always works, yeah. The second part at least usually works. Once I sat down like really hard and spread my ass, it was much easier. Here's me thinking I had one lane. Winning lane in solo doesn't matter in Smite 2. I can prove it actually. Watch this. Watch all of these games. It doesn't matter. Came out so far behind. You started... It was when you started rotating a lot. Like, at one point, you just never showed up in lane again. Loki still did, though, so I still died, but... At one point, you just didn't really farm. Like, if you leave solo for too long, you literally just fall behind. Solo needs to keep farming. Did you win or lose? I looked away, we won. Don't worry, now I just need 2 more wins just to get back into Demigod. No problem. If I lose another one, I'm gonna need 5 wins. It's gonna be a depressing day. If I don't reach just Demigod. That's the only goal today. Let's just get into Demigod again. And my Shibboleth was banned. Alright, what am I picking instead then? I don't really want something that is too melee into a Zeus.
Select your god.
I want some range. I mean, Wukong would be the obvious, right? But I can't fucking be asked, bro. I really can't be asked to play Wukong. Hades? No, I mean, that's still... He just ults me. And you don't heal as much as Hades right now. It feels really awkward. I actually think Hades feels kind... I don't think he's bad, but I think he feels kind of bad to play right now. Nua. It's alright, I'll do Janus. The only game that I really won last stream was when I picked Janus, and I locked the fuck in. I did so well that Janus game. But for some reason I cannot... Why I always meet Mordred when I pick Janus though? Ain't no way we want to ban the Mordreds though. He's not that strong. He's just annoying. No one can convince me that Mordred is OP with the lifesteal build. You can't tell me that. He's so fucking squishy with it, you get his 1 CC off of him, and he's dead. You cannot tell me he's good. Nothing will convince me. As someone who absolutely loves Mordred and wish he was good with them, I guess, so I could play him more, I don't fucking think he is. I really don't. I'm sorry. Granted, he might still completely get super fed this game, because I'm playing Janus, so he's gonna have a lot of breathing room. Their comp, though, is kind of really shit to deal with for me. I need Aegis. Wait, is this a... It's a jungle Fenrir, then I think I have to go Aegis. I think I'm going Aegis. Fuck it. And I am going Conduit for my early start. And yes, to no one's fucking surprise, I am going Lifebinder, guys. Stop. I am going for it. Don't say anything. Actually, Nectura, it's almost sad you weren't here yesterday. I had the youngest game of my life. It was the only game that I could actually win.
Glory to Athens! Glory to Athens!
Minions.
If there is something I think they could change on Mordred, is how fast the ultimate charges up. I do think that is pretty stupid. You can literally just ult someone, and if you know how to charge it
I've
up
got a
really
tingling in my
fast...
balls. I feel like some cringe shit's gonna go down.
Damn.
I don't know, maybe I'm gonna get
Yeah.
invaded again. Win wink.
Nudge, nudge. I'd do it again.
Actual criminal behavior, that game. The shit you put me through. Oh yeah, another thing I guess that's worth mentioning. I think the lifesteal build stuff is also a lot more OP when you're into another frontline, and you can simply use it better than them. But I do not think it's as OP into like an actual like mage or damage dealer, because you're just more squishy. Like it's harder for you to get close then.
Be careful.
I'll use it early, it just probably won't need it for a while anyway. Missed something important.
Wait for my son.
I can't get close to you. Yeah, good.
You are as
Yo, you're the
wise
best.
as you are strong.
Yeah, it was a close one.
Joe, you stole my blue act.
It wasn't clean.
That-
It was
that-
okay
that-
though.
Because of it.
I mean,
what do you...
how did you die though?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm being trolled.
You do. Did he come?
He loves dashing with this guy. Let's have fun together
Yeah, I
down
don't
here.
know.
Oh, he has Sunder, of course he does. Okay, he has Sunder as well, that's great.
I mean,
I should have
Uber
checked.
Aegis,
I did not think I was gonna
Shell.
die, because I know his cooldowns.
And we were winning the 2v2. Kinda crazy.
You talking about me or with Apollo?
With Apollo.
And would you look at
Yeah.
that? Now I'm behind in XP. Dude, what the fuck? How much XP did he get? How is he level 5? Smite 2 is so fucked. What are we talking about?
Can I share this?
How is he that far ahead of me in XP from that?
I can ult you.
Ah, that's
Want me
something
to ult?
completely
Oh.
fucking wrong with the XP in this game.
Ult me.
The rain shall wash them away.
He jumped. He just jumped.
Noble skill.
Nice. I'll take that purple.
I'm curious. Yeah, he did this. Okay, that makes sense. He did lose almost a full wave for that though.
He's out. Oh, nice.
He has beast, the fuck?
Yeah.
Can beast, I guess.
Oh well. Think I just back here for my life binder. So I don't die on cooldown. Like damage wise, it doesn't actually change much, because normally people will go for Gym with Focus, right? These days. It's exactly the same amount of int, but obviously you lose the cooldown, so in that way you do lose damage. But you gain survivability instead. It's a trade I'll have to make for solo. Into gods like Mordred.
Enemy missing.
I mean, I don't know, I just trolling, you know?
Okay.
Sure,
I am.
Mordred Fenrir
Thumbs up.
ults down.
Apollo, just don't try to do some silly stuff. Like, it's literally not needed.
Did not fucking expect
My
the
bad,
Fenrir in the
bro, my
bush
bad.
while I was
Yeah.
running away.
You're new.
Yes.
When we are winning the laning phase, there's no need to do some silly stuff. You are level 6 and he was level 4. I had no mana, so like the 2v2 is gonna be scuffed already. He edges though, all rages.
Just run at him and I'll ult you.
Yeah, okay. I have Stampede as well, so I can catch him if he jumps.
Just tell me when.
Enemy has been slain.
Nice.
It's pretty much always an easy kill there.
Your right tower is under attack.
I have
Maybe we can
Stampede.
kill this beast.
Enemy missing.
It's your
Oh, this
turn.
ours, this ours.
Oh,
Back is ours.
Match.
I did that way too early.
I don't have ult, but I'm coming left. Can we kill?
Yeah.
Sick.
So don't try to just clear the wave and don't try to do this purple. Easy.
Just life by way too early there. That was not ideal.
Enemy missing middle. Enemy missing middle.
I don't have ult for 20, so
I'm dead.
you are by yourself. Yeah, they could just do gold here.
Servot.
Zeus or Demeter for this Hades 2 run? I'm not too sure on all the builds yet. I'm still pretty early, but
Your middle tower is under attack.
I guess it depends on what weapon you're running.
Your right tower is under attack.
So far, I like the dual wield weapon the most. I think it's pretty. It's one. It's like one of the first weapons you
Enemy
get.
team has destroyed the gold fury.
That one. I like the faster ones so far. I don't like the weapons that lock you too much into animations. Some of them do that, which is not for me. For the staff, I mean, I like the freeze on that, so I would generally say that. Because you don't want them to get too close.
Yeah, if they go on you, I can ult you.
Orchard backed. Sephiroth is alone here.
I can ult you net.
He doesn't have jump, but don't ult me.
Let me know when.
You can ult me. I guess you jump.
Enemy missing
That's a
middle.
shame.
Enemy missing middle. Yes.
You can try to
Come
help
mid.
mid.
Fenrir and Mordred might be going to mid.
Cuckoo. It's bullet.
Serb
So,
cancelled my 3. How does that happen?
yeah, for us.
Your right tower is under attack.
I gotta stop ulting just to see if I can help out on the right side. I actually kinda need it if I want to rotate to mid. Not to mention just for safety purposes.
Speed's Fen. I've got TP mid.
Yeah, he missed his chain.
Just go for that red.
I have ult in 5.
I have ult in 10. He's got ult, doesn't he?
More than likely, yeah. I did actually hit him. He's pretty low.
Shame. Get the tower though.
Oops, that
Go
was a
on me.
bad portal.
He has no jumps.
Your middle tower is under attack.
We should be able to chase.
Your right
Hey, who the fuck was 1 HP? Why can't I see him?
Can I hit?
Ah. I ulted the wrong person.
is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
I'm going in. Obviously I don't have ult. You're dead, aren't you? Huge.
Holy shit. Thank you.
Eat.
He sundered me.
Yeah.
Tower is under attack.
I mean, just kill me, I guess. Gold is up, by the way. Be careful with the
Fucking not having ult is so annoying. And then having to portal for someone else is just so slow. Felt like as slow as Giannis in existence that whole fight.
I'm gonna ult right on spawn. Respawn. Chase him.
Don't go in, don't go in, don't go in. Don't.
I've got ult! Oh, I was gonna ult in.
Oh, nah.
Can I ult you?
It was
Told not
very
to go
risky.
in, so.
It was risky. Very easy, by the way.
Fucking kill him. If he jumps, I'll ult someone.
Your right tower is under attack.
Take portals if you need them.
Zeus, no ult.
Lewis? No, the
Go
housing
slow.
up. Crazy, man.
I mean, I'll move him. I've just got it back.
Yeah, we can go.
That's been unfortunate. Zeus definitely should have been dead there. But that is also just kind of the comp we have. We're just no cooldowns the fucking comp. Athena's cooldowns are long as fuck,
You
Guan's
going
cooldowns are long as
I
fuck.
can ult back in.
Right now my cooldowns are pretty long. Oops.
Enemy has been slain.
There's a guy here, this guy here. Yeah, okay, maybe.
Reigns he pours.
Oh, he's 9 and 0. Yeah, damn.
I couldn't see him, that's so annoying. My bad, Apollo.
Ally has been slain.
I baited him.
Enemy missing middle.
Zeus is pushing mid, maybe. Watch for red.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Wait,
Yeah,
what
I
the
mean,
fuck?
they could just all be coming too.
Yeah. I didn't use my 1, but it took the cooldown when he bit me. I didn't use it, I just charged it and took the cooldown. That's fucked. I'm right in saying that shouldn't happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with Hu Yi, where you get a Willix pulled, but you still have your jump up when you land.
Just the opposite. I've lost my jump.
Yeah,
I've
pretty
lost
much.
my
It's
that's
mine
so
too.
shit. At least there's a bug report channel in the Smite Discord that I can go to, and they'll read it.
Enemy missing middle. Ultimate is ready.
My ult's up. Tell me if you want me to ult you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna TP over an ult as well. Bro.
I mean, the guy just doesn't take damage. What?
Yeah, I don't know. Can we kill him?
Oh my god.
What?
Tower is under attack.
Sad. This game might be scuffed, man.
Tower is under attack.
I mean, he's level 16, I guess, but still, like, how do you not take damage? The Zeus.
Under attack.
Zeus beats.
It's fine.
Shame
We
on
just need
it,
to
so-
play around late
oh,
game.
Yeah, I mean, our
All
late game,
comp is
like,
kinda scuffed,
we have
so-
a Guan Yu aspect, so.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
I mean, there's no way that Zeus should be living there. That's crazy. Like, did Apollo just like ult down on to his ult or something?
Oops. Guess my ult is up. I'll risk it for some more farm.
Fenrir is here, by the way. Just warded here.
Okay.
This
There
Fenrir
might be
is here,
ulti
by
coming
the
to
way.
your nade, careful.
I need ult, I need ult, I need ult. I do ult.
Trying to ult for you, get
I
portals if you
know.
need it.
Yo, Madrid, Madrid.
Enemy has been slain.
Thank you.
Don't forget to take portals if you need
Enemy
them.
team has destroyed the pirate. Your right tower has been
Yeah.
destroyed. Your right tower is under attack.
Fenrir no ult as well.
I think we need a ward fire here.
Ultimate is down.
Yeah, you solo the fuck out of him, yeah, Cuckoo. Thank you for waiting. About to get poly, about to hit different.
Fenrir and Zeus are both on left.
I will.
I don't think we win that 2v2 though.
Think not.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just letting you know, just in case you needed it. Let me know.
Zeus and server going mid. Somebody's on me.
Damn.
You good and left?
Should be. You can help me if you want.
I'm going left. Nice job.
Nice. Good call. I didn't know if he'd ulted or not.
There's 3 people in mid. Ferrer is missing.
Kept my Aegis for it too because of the Thin ult, so that works out.
They have wards around here, by the way.
I'm backing. Probably on a ward.
They're on the bush.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Zeus ult. He's 1 HP.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Ooh. Your middle tower is under attack.
That's a shame.
Oh, they hit like a baby.
Should he waited for my taunt?
Destroyed. The pyromancer has arrived.
Got all the time.
Just get out if you can. Suddenly there's a lot of people here.
Older no ages.
Yeah, we gotta grab some more wards.
Yes.
I sense your fear.
They're on gold. 7k, 7.5k. They got off it. Yeah, that's so cringe that he's done that. I've got ult. If you want to go in, let me know.
Release off.
Let me reset.
We gotta kill Oracle though.
Motor tough.
I don't jump.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Ally has been slain.
Did we lose?
I mean, I can't defend these.
I'm trying to leave, but Uller's just sitting on me.
Vivez is being Vivez.
Ultimate is ready.
I'm up in 10, so we could actually turn it on him if he does chase you all the way. Yeah, he's behind you still. He's still there.
Your left
On fire,
tower
near fire.
is under attack.
I got ult.
Alright, I'll be.
He just jumped as well, didn't he? He's so weak. Beads ult Zeus. Huge.
That worked out for me.
I don't even know what to recommend, but I feel like you need something else in that build, Apollo. Like tier thing, maybe? Surely dies. Nice,
Nice,
well
good
played.
jump.
I will.
We can try fire, but they're all pretty much back up.
What did I send them?
Just kill him. That's so weak.
Thank you.
I will. I can ult your ass.
Zeus is here.
Can you ult
Go
me? Can you
in,
ult me?
fuck him up!
Ult me.
Go!
Alright, back on fire, back on fire. We're too low to this and Finra's coming.
Thank you.
It's so good.
I'll defend right.
Alright, okay.
Bro, like fucking out, bro, just to fire.
He's running away. He's left.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Oh, like a jaguar.
Nice. I'm backing I will.
We have ult already. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, I got 2 kills and an assist, so
I
I
need a
lost
bit of
15
gold.
seconds. And it's already got a 55 seconds cooldown.
I need 200 gold.
Think nothing of it.
F beats.
Alright, don't go alone now, boys. We need to group and we gotta get some fucking towers.
Yep.
You do gold.
That team fight, I healed a lot, so just group up a bit, but don't group up that much because of this.
And if he jumps in, he'll kill him. Give it up. It's a shame.
Mortar's 1 HP. Fuck.
Has been slain.
I have ult again.
I mean,
Nice, just push mid there.
Destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Go in.
Juice has no beats, by the way.
Yeah, I
I
beat
mean, he almost just killed
I'm
me,
backing.
I guess.
Oh, you
Fire
8
him.
and 1, what happened? I happened. What do you mean? I cooked.
Can I take this blue?
I'm Janusing, as you would say. Yeah, go for it.
Older wages.
I need 200 gold.
Serve no beats as well.
Just finish this up. I really want this before the next fight. They're on the gold camp.
Zeus and Modred. They're all here, they're all left, they're all left.
I'm getting golden. Do I need to ult? No.
Your left tower has been destroyed.
I mean, unfair.
I'll flip.
Enemy has been slain.
I have ult. Yeah.
This team will see victory, even if I have to put them on my back and carry them to it.
Fighting party. That's unfortunate.
Just back and get fire.
I have ult.
No, just back and get fire, boys. Don't risk it.
But I wanna risk it.
The biscuit isn't worth it, man.
So is. Oh, so my beads didn't go off? Rip.
Wow, man. Alright, just ward it then. We have to just
My bad.
defend it.
My bad. He hit me for 1,500 basic attacks. Wait, that cuckoo ult missed. Cuckoo, I'd maybe go the other way. Oh, you're dead as fuck, Cuckoo. Just stay alive, I've got ult when I spawn.
Zeus beats. Serve beats. Older no jump.
I'm open 8. 3,
Oh my
2,
god, man.
Cannot do all, man.
Yeah, he does so much poly damage, it's ridiculous.
The rain shall wash them away.
My bad, I've trolled this file dying there.
Yeah, no, we just need to stay grouped. Like, this game should be free if we're all 5 together.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't. I don't know why my beads
No.
didn't go off, otherwise I'd taunt and probably kill him.
Yeah,
The
don't worry.
hitbox
I'll
on
get some
fucking
CDR now,
app
because I don't
is
think I
so
need Life
fucking
Binder
broken,
anymore.
by the
It's
way.
irrelevant, so it's time to get CDR.
I don't get it in time.
Nah.
No, just leave it, defend. Push up lanes. Especially right.
Yes,
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
It sucks. I did waste a lot of time in that fight looking for, or not looking for, but like
Do
actually
we
getting...
try and do gold?
No, absolutely not.
No?
It's
Okay.
way too late for that though.
He should have to defend left at some point.
We need some more wards as well, like our vision is terrible.
Yeah.
I can't look for snipes if I don't know where they are.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Get through this.
Yep, sure, right. Roger's gonna TP.
On my way.
Actually, I can ult.
Your right Phoenix is under attack. Your right Phoenix has been destroyed.
Good damage. Right.
No way, what?
Xbal, I'm backing and coming in.
Go on the Zeus.
Enemy has been slain. Get through this. Rain shall wash them away.
Mid.
Yeah,
Do
we
we
can.
end?
No, maybe. We can get a Phoenix at least.
Yeah.
I'm sad my ult missed on Uber,
Group of Rios.
but that was pretty good for us. Do you have taunt? Do we know if he has beats?
I have beats for
I don't
the
have beats.
results. We can end, we can end.
Okay.
I said he had beats. He didn't listen.
Okay,
He
boys.
didn't listen,
That's
I
good
had beats, bro.
My bad for Ellie trolling that.
It's okay.
That's fine, shit happens.
Victory.
Did a lot of damage too, actually. That was just throws. Throws and throws. I feel like the last 3 times I have played Giannis in solo, though, I have legitimately met Mordred. And I don't know why, because I don't feel like I meet Mordred that much. But I do if I play Giannis. But it's also probably one of the, like, the better gods into him in terms of, like, 1v1ing. Because you can actually follow the Giannis with the ult. But even then, I don't really think it's that good of a matchup for Mordred, necessarily. Well, I don't know what I'm saying it is, but... I guess what I'm trying to say is, in terms of how he closes the distance, he's not that good at that, necessarily, compared to someone like Mulan or Thor or Wukong or whatever, right? I feel like other gods deal with it a bit better. Mordred's main problem is just getting close without taking damage. He's really not that good at that. That small dash doesn't really do much for him. On that front. Right. No. My pig. That was not really ideal. That sucks. Let's take some damage. You may have the rig. We'll see. I don't have my Xbal, so I don't know what I have at this point. And also, the last few times I feel like have felt like I've been stacked, it's ended in a loss, so can't always trust it. Man, a Xbal less life? What am I supposed to do with this? Let's play CERN, I guess. Don't think I'm running poison in this game. Seagull, you're the little bitch that stole my pick. How dare you? How could you? I trusted you. What a bitch. You thought you knew people, huh? Until they stab you in the back. This might be an Aegis game. And then he never looked back. I keep saying that, but this character feels like ass without Blink. Hecate jungle. That does seem to be the case, yeah. Honestly, not the worst I've seen. Hecate at least does have some decent gank potential. And she's got a lot of burst once she had some items. As long as you keep it on the mess, she has good setup for herself. But, I mean, would I say it's good? No, probably not, but it probably is pretty fun. I think Hecate is fun solo. I should honestly play it more.
Minions have
She is one of the type of mages that actually feels a bit more supporty, like kind of like the Yanas, where you have the portals to support your team. With Hecate, you have the nice ult, you have the shield to help out. It feels a bit more supporty in that way.
The forest runs rampant.
Why did he go to the wave?
once more into the breach.
I thought he was gonna fall back. grabbing the candy.
Enemy missing. Be careful, right. Enemy missing. Be careful, right.
The forest runs rampant. Your right tower is under attack. Wild growth. Enemy ultimate down.
I do love being able to finish Devos in the first pack.
Enemy missing.
And I'm dog shit. I can't believe I missed my blink. Or my 2 in my blink. That's so tragic.
On my way.
Wash them away.
Xbal alt beats.
Double kill.
Tragic. Guess I can't fight without wards. Nem will definitely be a problem for me. I think they know about the ult. I have to say it anyway. Sometimes people don't realize.
Under attack.
You never know, you know? Maybe they missed it. Happens to the best. I mean, what the fuck? Bro, they love me over here.
On my way.
We just kill them.
Enemy has been slain. Ally has been slain. Wash them away.
Slow ass attack speeds.
Another beast falls. Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Probably gonna stop trying to fight until I finish VOD Lamp. It ain't worth it. I do not have the attack speed right now, I think, to actually outbox him now that he's 2 does damage. much do I need? I need so much.
I'll attack left lane.
Enemy has been slain.
Curses.
No problem. I say that was a horrific shame. Attack middle lane. Enemies incoming left. One's drawn into the breach. Ultimate is down. Ally has been slain.
Ultimate is down.
Your left tower is under attack.
You cannot escape. Enemy ultimate down.
The rain shall wash them away.
The forest runs rampant.
On my way.
Fucking Lifebinder, man.
Left lane. On my way. Attack now.
Easy run. Good luck. Your left tower is
It's
under
fine, minions cook them. Bro. He's actually out. Nah, this is out. So we just secured the kill.
Your left tower is under attack.
I mean, I get it. That's classic, like... Usually, like, top supports will try to give... like, the kills to someone who can use it, you know, better. But in those cases, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you should have just secured the kill.
On my way. Follow me.
Your right tower is under attack. The rain shall wash them away. Oh, very strong. Oh, chase the enemy. Jaguar. Triple kill. Attack the gold. Your middle tower is under attack.
Huge.
Runs rampant.
Your feet. Fabuloso.
Good day.
Yes. Enemy spotted.
Walk in front of me, so I can auto you.
Hasta la vista, amigo. Enemy ultimate down.
Sure, the name doesn't show up. Why would she?
Destroy the left enemy tower.
Luck is preparation meeting opportunity.
Solid 2v1. Yeah, I mean it was Jover the second, at least for Scylla. Wait, oh, it's a mid lane Scylla too. I didn't even realize, bro. I was like, I've been dealing with support Scylla for so many games now. I did not think for a second that I was gonna like dodge the ultimate, because why would I? It's a support still anyway. That was not the case actually. But I mean, still worked out.
Enemy missing.
Dude, this fucking Nemesis, man. Xbal beats. I mean, I'm just not playing bad, and I'm not listening to myself. When I could just tell myself to ward, and if I ward, there will be no issue. Simple as that. I'm going Fatalis. At this point, I don't even care. Maybe I don't go Fatalis. Maybe actually I try this instead. Maybe a Pharaoh's Curse? Eh, whatever. I'll go Sanguine. There's too many fucking items I could buy. I shouldn't have dashed.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy has been slain.
I guess he backed.
Once more into the breach. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower into the breach.
Don't see him on the back cams. Damn. Tragic.
On my way.
Can I get that goal, please?
It's fine, we're getting Pyro for you.
That works.
Has destroyed the Pyromancer. On my way. Fabuloso.
I'll attack middle lane.
Have fun. Your right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the gold fury.
Actually faster just to TP back.
Your left tower is under attack.
I have jumping wall.
I'm TPing left.
I have ult.
Enemy has been slain. Your left tower.
Powerful Cubit gameplay. There wasn't much resistance there. It was left clicking to the fullest extent. Just start fire here.
Yes. Destroyed the fire tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
Be right
Your middle tower is under attack.
Maybe should have gone Berserkers first. I kind of want more attack speed.
Ally has been slain.
I don't know, in the new Shibbolonke ult, I don't know if anyone knows this, or the small technicalities of all that stuff, but is it more worth it to not get the slow? I just wait it out, or I actually just... I don't know.
Your right tower has been destroyed.
I was trying to blink.
The Pyromancer has arrived. Fabuloso!
Overpower and manipulate.
Middle enemy tower.
Close to me.
Didn't expect the actually to die there.
Attack middle lane.
And we lost dagger. Something that... Dude, oh my god. I was trying to let it tank me up, and then something else hit me too.
Wash them away.
That was tragic. Oh well. Fucking Mantle of Discord fucked us up completely though.
Enemy has been slain.
That was really weird. Who the fuck buys that item?
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy Phoenix.
I can't blame it on the Mantle though, because I kind of just went back into the Phoenix and took damage. I wish I could see how much damage it did to me though. The last tower shot.
Your left tower is under attack.
Maybe one day the T-Screen will work as intended. Shibbolonke aspect good? Yes, it is completely broken. It's so broken that it feels like they made a mistake somewhere. Or like it's bugged. His 2 just straight up one-shots. It does way too much damage. It's broken in kind of the same way as Wukong, where it just feels like his abilities do way too much damage for no reason.
Retreat.
Completed. No problem. Attack fire giant problem.
Enemies in left lane.
Gank.
And no beats. The same. We're fine.
Still all down as well.
On the cup, no? Wicked.
Ah, he fucked it up as well. Nice. I might have lived there, or maybe not lived, because I still got Syl to the face, but I might have done a lot better if I had the attack speed from Berserkers and the passive on it. That would have helped a lot. Ah, unfortunate. Nice. Nice corner, I saw Fox. Yeah, from what I could see on practice mode, Xbal 2, with just a normal mage build, will do about 1.5 to like about 1.5k damage, between 1k and 1.5 depending on who you're hitting. And then you can reset it with your ult. That's absolutely insane. It just does so much damage for quite literally zero reason. And it's unmissable. Like, as long as they're right in front of you, like, you hit them. Guess I'll take it. I mean, I don't think he would be that good if... Oh, I thought he ult already dashed. I don't think he would be that good if he also, like... If he didn't have wave clear is what I'm trying to say. Tragic. Missed the easiest route in the game. I forgot if I have finished saying what I was saying, but I guess what I was trying to say was, if he didn't have any wave clear, it would kind of be an issue, and I think his one change gives him some pretty decent wave clear. So, that's what I was trying to say. I do think his whole kit comes, you know, to a pretty nice combo of things. But yeah, I mean, it's just these two just does way too much damage for no reason. Once that's fixed, it's probably going to be a pretty decent mage. Not insanely good, but... Potential imposter spotted. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened in that game for you, Impact. Just looked like the rough one, pretty much all around. Oh no, why am I top pick? We have to have gotten baby gamed. Man, even when I lose all the time, I'm still top pick. I hate this. It was so nice today not being top pick. Yeah, well, who was your ADC that game? Oh, the Cupid, right? Dilano or whatever. It's his playstyle. It is what it is. Spend the Suki. I mean, I think this one is a dodge, if I had to guess. I'm checking, actually. Let's see adapting stream. Oh, no, they just got a different game. That's so weird. I don't even recognize anyone on adapting's team either. That is so strange. Well, like, who am I against then? I guess I'm checking Seagull. Am I just against Seagull then? Oh, and Dutch. Okay. That's so strange that the queue split. This does suck though, because now I'm just kind of picking into someone who knows that it's me on this pick as well. Like, Nem will not be an easy matchup for me. Banned Odin when Pain is in your team. Yeah, that's my bad, I guess. My bad, Pain. But at the same time, I banned Odin because I knew I'm going to play Xbalanque, so I wasn't really thinking about anything else. I ain't dealing with fucking Odin and Xbalanque. That would be the worst. Completely banned out your jungler. He plays other stuff too, it's fine. Probably. This was a bad time to split. Fuck. Now there's two of them and they have a lot of HP. I have still a question. When you get higher ranked, do people start respecting banning characters you play? Respect banning characters you play? Not right now, because there was simply just so many. Like, they used to. But right now there are so many characters that are just OP that you would rather not deal with those instead. Sometimes you will definitely see it, like rarely. But generally, no. Not right now. If I play, yeah, sometimes you'll see people ban like Kukulkan or something into like specific people like Snotty. Or Odin was banned against I Feel Pain, who is on my team here as well, previous to this patch. Right now Odin's being banned in general, but you see it here and there, yeah. Why have you nerfed me this way? Didn't know Odin was a top ban? Yeah, he has no cooldowns. He has such low cooldowns when you build the right stuff on him. And obviously everyone knows how annoying his ultimate is to deal with. If you have that up every 30 or 40 seconds, that's not going to be fun to play against. And he just does a lot of damage. It's a pretty high damaging character in Smite 2.
I always come prepared.
I always come prepared. This is probably an Aegis game. I'm curious actually, because I don't think I've ever seen this happen, but what happens with the Nem aspect if you ult someone who is Aegising? Do they still lose the HP? Because it works differently. It's not like it deals damage to you. Would you still gain health back, or would you just negate the whole thing? I assume it wouldn't work, at least. Is he wrong though, Snotty? Is he? I don't know, I feel like we started losing our duo queues when you started not playing Kukulkan. I don't know, maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe he's actually right. Have you thought about that? Abyss queues. It's been pretty shit, I would say. I mean, even in the games where we played really well, and had good teammates, we still just end up throwing it somehow. It's fucking impossible to win last time. And now I'm here. It's me and Dutch. Oh, I have Barrow as well. Alright, I feel more hope then. Okay, I guess leveling the 2 isn't worth it, just at level 1 for that. That's not really particularly fast clear. That's still pretty good level 1 poke though. Like 130 damage or so.
One strike is all I need.
Okay. I didn't think his 3 was gonna be up already. Or his 2. Whoops. What's the base cooldown on M2? Huh. It's cooked. I've thrown my own lane.
An enemy has been slain.
My style.
Be careful, left.
One strike is all I need. My domain.
The rain shall wash them away.
Is that so fucked that he hit level 4?
I need to rethink my moves.
Need to hit level 4 or level 5. Hold him. Quickly.
Attack right lane. Right lane. An enemy has been slain.
There we go. Plan worked. I need some back, boys.
Velona's 1 HP. She's backing.
Getting ETH ulted makes me so sad. Yeah, it's pretty tragic, especially when you're winning the 1v1. Or if you just like an even 1v1, and you get ETH ulted. That's just the worst. So it had to be done.
Your right tower is under attack.
I don't know how I want to level my Xbal abilities with this.
Let me tip the scales.
Maybe just, I don't know, I think I just have to level the 1 for wave clear. Just accept that. It's not like the 1 is bad for damage either. Just decent damage. think I'll just do what I did before. I will just level it until I hit rank 3, so I can one-shot the archers. Let that be it. Careful mid, they were all here. They might be rotating. Rough. No assist. Despite my ult.
Get the mid tower, guys. Together, come on. It's a free tower, trust me. I don't have ult for right, be careful. Gamehunter.
That's fine, I'm just gonna chill. I can't fight him anyway.
Yeah, if you can secure my purple, please.
Nem might have TP'd. No, it's just a...
There's no running from me.
Don't give them gold, be careful.
On my way. Your right tower is under attack.
Nate, if you can come left, we got it.
They don't doing it, bro. Totally.
They're in left jungle.
I just got it back. Life miner is too big.
Strength is on my side. Ultimate is ready.
He has no dash.
I can ult left, guys, if you want to do something. I'm ulting left. I hit Agni, it's coming.
Enemy ultimate.
Bellona's rotating now, be careful.
Kinda sucks that I had to ult for my team there. Having my ult there would have been huge. Not sure it leads to a kill, because he still has ult up, I imagine, but...
Enemy missing.
He dashed, bro.
There's not right. Missing right. Enemy missing left.
I'm coming. Just try to get the Bellona.
The scales.
The rain shall wash them away. Your right tower is under attack. problem. The Pyromancer has arrived.
Enemy missing middle. Nowhere to hide.
On my way. I'll defend.
This time I think I'll go for some cooldown earlier than I did before.
Enemy spotted.
Made a terrible mistake of queuing Arena to try New God.
I need 100 gold for Toti. Please don't start the fight.
Wait, what New God? Like Suku? Or...
Can anyone help left? How are you getting ganked with 4 people?
I'm TPing left. Let's just see if we can fight it then.
Enemies at the
Yeah, if they going gold, I'm here too.
Don't be glum. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Just dive it, man.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Not sure what the fuck my Hui is doing when I'm just fucking running him down. I'm on my way mid.
I mean, both are 1 HP.
Yeah, he should be dead.
Enemy has been
I
slain.
just start gold.
On my way.
I think you guys need to be careful of Nemesis.
Destroyed the Gold Fury.
I'll try Chrono Spin this time. Before I went Gem of Focus. But actually, I don't know, I don't think you need the movement speed on Xbal as much. You have good escapability. I would rather just want, like, this. Like, get my abilities up as often as possible. Just use the ult for using it, I guess. Just get fed off of assists and or just helping out the team. Makes more sense to me.
On my way. Enemy missing right.
Yeah, my bad. Didn't know when it was.
The rain shall wash them away. Enemy missing left. Be careful.
My ult's back up in a few seconds.
Nemesis no ult.
On my way. Your middle tower is under attack. Cancel that. I'll defend left lane.
I think they're dashing behind you, bro. Can anyone help Shaba, please?
Yo, are we
I'm
back on
TPing,
this?
bro. I'm TPing.
Don't be glum. It's no problem.
I don't know where my Fenrir went. That was really weird. Like, I feel that should have been free for us. At least one kill. They used fucking everything on me. Ult does not give assist anymore? Oh, wait, is that an aspect thing, or is that just a normal thing? I thought it did.
Baron, I need the ward in the bush, bro. Scylla's 24/7 here. Just force, please, the Pyromancer. Don't waste your ult, please, on the Scylla. It's like so useless. You can just counter ult. Ult the Nemesis, which is possible, Baron.
Enemy ultimate incoming! Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
Gavel, Gavel. Four people in mid.
Falling back.
Don't be out of position, guys.
Your middle tower is under attack. Enemy full fury.
Let me heal on the wave and then I'm coming. I'm coming.
That's Janos Beats.
We got him some good poke here.
So I literally half-life still. I think we don't do this.
Careful mid, careful mid.
I'm charging ult. I just get out.
Yana's backed. This is a bit awkward, just losing so much farm for this. I thought we could just fight this, but we do have a pretty shit comp the more I'm looking at it, because we went
We
once
should
again.
target Janos now, he has no beads.
He's not good. Just force, please, the Nemesis.
It's
Agni and Nem are left, so you can push right.
it's awkward
backing
because
and
we
getting
now
some
have
gold.
a.
Don't get the gold.
I'm too far away anyway, and if we're backing in left, then I'm just gonna stay
Yeah.
right.
Nem's just bugged, she might be coming to you.
Yeah, never here. But yeah, as I was saying, I very often feel like Baron gets picked when I'm picking something that is not an actual frontline, so we're kind of in a position where we don't have someone who can initiate very well. Nem will be rotating, guys. I'm not gonna follow.
On my way on mid, careful mid, Agni is missing also.
Nem is coming too, guys. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, just get out, guys. I'm here. It's looking good. It's looking good. Chill, chill. Come on. We are not running. We are not running.
Yeah, yeah,
Get
no
the
worries.
Janos.
Your left tower. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Agni is
Let me
left,
heal
so
on
we
you.
can push. We can fight this.
Your left tower has been destroyed.
Get the Naga or gold. Anything, come on.
They know I'm here now.
She's alone here.
I'm on my way.
Go, go, go on here.
She beats. She beats.
Nice,
And
nice.
also got gold. Scylla with no ult for like, I don't know,
Janos is
6 level
coming
keys.
also. Be careful.
He TP'd out.
I'm dashing in, bro.
Careful. I have nothing for you.
Ah, we can fight this, we can fight this. Myth,
Go
I'll
for
give you
HP left.
vision
Go
on
for HP.
Janos.
Yeah, give me vision. Give me vision.
On Janos, on Janos.
I'm ulting in. Huge damage.
Nice, man, nice.
I'm coming for Scylla, bro. Everything is down.
Careful, don't overstep, guys.
I just get it. We got so much stuff.
I guess I have to go for pen here.
Can we take also Pyro? Real
Just in
quick?
Yeah,
case.
we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god. I'll go pen just in case, because they do have a decent front line I want to get through. So far, none of them are really building any defense, though. But whatever. Then I have it.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Nem is kind of out of position here.
On my way.
It's just running anyway. I don't think we can kill theirs too.
You guys need to be careful with the fire giant. Agni's in mid.
Still banked. Use your advice from yesterday, not fighting AD Zero Mage is the best thing that ever happened to me in this game. Yeah, I mean, some advice.
Bro, run. How are you? Run. Behind this nemesis.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Like, sometimes some of the simplest, most simple tips are some of the best ones as well, if you can just apply it well. Careful in mid Baron.
Can we catch Janos maybe? He's following Scylla. Oh no.
I'm charging ult on Janus. I think I hit the Scylla, guys. Yeah, I hit the Scylla.
Agnes 1 HP, guys.
turn
Get
to
the
me?
Acne. Get the Acne. Why are we grabbing Scylla again?
Oh, you move like a jack. Deicide!
We need to stop focusing on Scylla, guys. Stop going on Scylla.
I don't know why you guys going on it so hard.
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
I'm not really sure what to even build here. For my last item. Like, I might just have to go Murden and try it out. See if I like it or not.
Your middle tower is under attack. The pyromancer has arrived. Be careful middle. The enemy team has destroyed
+1 candy, hell yeah.
your middle tower is under attack.
Okay, I think I might want to finish my starter first, just for cooldown. wanted to look for Janus.
shall wash them away.
I'm ulting Agni. Huge damage on Agni. Huge damage on Agni. Follow him up. Follow him up. Follow him up. You can't catch him. You can't catch him. Come on. Nice. And now we go. I know I need to defend left.
Yeah, no, someone needs to defend left. I'll just go do it, I guess.
I think that's my job. I think that's my job. Let me do it. Nemesis is backing. Nemesis is backing.
Yeah, we can't get Phoenix, guys. I don't think so.
She's running.
Just go on Nemesis in the back, guys. Fall back mid.
Yeah, I'm coming mid too. I need a bit. If you guys fighting, ignore the Scylla. Go on the Nem. Force it. Nice. And now turn. We're doing Pyromancer. Come on. Turn, turn, turn. Pyromancer. Play some wards.
Come to Naga after.
Just back together and then let's go. Push a bit the lanes, guys. That's a bit important. Just to the half.
Just go Murden. I also keep forgetting to buy one of the other wards. Like this one. Can you only do this in the very beginning? Or can I just swap them out whenever I want? I think in this game anyway, I'll probably just keep a normal ward, but whenever you want. Nice.
Be careful how you, bro.
Alright, Snotty. We're relaxing Saturday activity. I appreciate it.
I'm
happy
backing.
people can just relax and listen to me whine and bitch about things. I don't think I'll be playing like that much today, either way. Usually I think... Oh. No more freezing things. Like usually Saturday queues gets pretty rough. Today has been okay though.
Just play around the route from Baron. I think they're ambushing me, I'm not sure.
They have sentry on fire.
Janus try something alone mid. If you want, we can catch my ulting in. I'm coming from middle.
Nem behind, guys, Nem behind.
I'm charging ult. Help Sharper, come on, I'm coming, bro.
That was painful. Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Tank, by the way.
Your middle tower is under attack.
I'm backing for my starter. Get the oracles.
The pyromancer has arrived.
Agni dash, Agni dash. I tried to follow him up. Bellona here without beats.
Agni's coming.
Careful, guys. Be careful. I'm charging ult on Bellona. Bellona ult, Bellona ult.
Fabuloso! Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Look for them, them.
Enemy has been slain.
I'm backing out, boys.
I need to rethink my moves. Your right tower is under attack. Oh, Maya Rippy! I always come prepared.
Trying to get to you.
That's not right.
My bad. I literally can run, but it's hard to hit that shit.
On my way.
Yeah, I just put Soul Reaver for the Scylla now. I'm pretty sure if I hit one time, it's like 1k damage. Oh, huge one, bro. Huge one. I have ult in some seconds if you just... Okay, interesting. Very interesting, Game Hunter. Very interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's completely broken.
Just get out, guys. Be careful. He's charging you. I'm charging ult. For Janus if he turns on you. Ah, man, I hit Scylla. Oh, man. Just run high, bro, Howie. Just run high. Don't come to us. They are following you. Run to me now. From the left side. Run, run, run.
Think you need Lifeliner for Nimble? No, wait, why would I ever go Nimble on this character? You just want full power and one shot with it too.
Can you
Nimble just feels like a waste because it has not a lot of power on it.
Huge damage on Scylla.
We need to push up left a bit, guys.
Yeah.
I'm close to a 3k pot, so I'm just gonna farm a bit.
So if they see you guys are all left, you need to defend the fire giant.
There we go.
Yeah, they can start it. Can we go?
Let's remove
careful.
these.
Yeah, I don't have any ward. But I still
I have a sentry on me.
Sentry ward. You need to be careful from behind.
Wash them away.
I have nothing for now, guys.
Janus 1 HP. Try to run, bro. Upper side. Huge damage. I think at this point we can ult the Scylla now with Fenrir. Because Howie is literally melting here.
Your middle tower.
Help him, help him. Huge stun, bro. Huge stun. She don't have ult, she don't have ult. Just jump in, brother.
Enemy has been slain.
I have ult for the Agni.
I mean, we have
But
Bellona
Bellona's
and
up.
Agni
Bellona's
coming
up,
here,
Bellona's
boys.
up, but she don't have beats.
I know, but we're pretty low here.
I see two. Yeah. I have ult in 10. I mean, I'm spawning in 10 seconds. I think that's very risky, guys. I can ult Agni if you guys want.
Just get out if you can, get out if you can.
I'm ulting. Ulting. Kill it. Turn. Ult is coming.
Enemy has been slain.
We're lucky she didn't pick up the dagger.
Yeah.
I was just getting the fuck out of there, bro.
instant run,
I like, bro, I was just fucking running my ass off after we got it. Just start up gold fast so we can get it before they spawn or get there.
On my way.
My free K pods. I'm just doing one ability in mid and then coming left.
Take this jungle buff. On my way.
Push left. Someone is here. Be careful, bro. Huge damage, Howie. Help him. He don't have portal, bro. He don't. You can jump in behind. Still a dash on. Huge one.
I have some healing, boys.
I think it's I just reset. I think. Oh, the fire giant is healing you guys up. I mean, you guys have 28 seconds for one Phoenix.
Yeah, but they seem to know where we are behind us, boys.
Oh, okay. Huge one. One damage is dead. I'm ulting. I don't see anyone. I'm ulting Janus. Bro, what?
Yeah, he's 1 HP. Dude, these Janus just always looking for me. Goddamn. Can I get the red buff, or do you want it?
Oh, too late, brother.
That's fine.
The enemy red is up.
It might be, but I'm not taking that risk.
I need to do it for you.
I don't think I can go pick it up though. They're all back up. It's fine. I got another 3k pot. They're on pyro.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyro. Your right tower has been destroyed. Your right tower is under attack.
Bro, the Janus is portaling every time and he's so bad, bro. Let's try to get the Janus. I have ult. I literally will do 1k damage. I'm flanking. Luna. I'm ulting Agni. My ult, I don't know what's happening.
Janus 1 HP behind. Behind you, Bear.
Attack middle lane. On my way. Enemy has been slain. Attack right.
It's fine. Just go mid, guys. It's done. Yeah, it's done. I'm pushing. Oh, okay. Right. Should be an Belona's up too.
I think it's fine.
Double Phoenix, yeah. It's totally fine. I have Volt for Dark.
No, we can still get fire as well. Just go straight to fire.
I'm ulting next step.
I'll wait here for Agni.
I'm ulting, brother. If you just use one ability and he's... I'm charging full. I hit him.
Makes sense.
Careful for Janus ulti.
Yeah, just be careful. You can pick the red after we're pushing left. Just reset, guys. If you need to reset, then reset now.
It's fine. I'm getting there, red.
Should we
I'm
go
gonna back
gold
for another
or
30.
no?
We're going left. We're letting pushing the mid wave and the right wave to the Titan, and then we getting left Phoenix. Don't get picked.
T-screw does not work
He's looking for a
properly.
pick,
I know,
trust me.
but I would believe that one.
Yeah, they're taking gold. No worries.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
They try to back though. Just push.
Pyromancer has arrived.
They're looking for a pick. Be careful. So they're pushing right. Someone back in front of me.
Bellona is backing. Janus is in mid. Can we catch him, maybe?
No, it's just too far away. Just chill. Play it slowly. The waves
Nemesis
are
is
pushing
behind
in.
us.
The waves are pushing in. Just play slow.
That's
Janus
Janus
ult
ult
down.
down.
Huge one. I'm charging ult. Just wait for the waves. We have enough time. We have 150 seconds. Just chill for the waves.
Yeah, just wait until our mid and right is pushed.
Yeah. Start the fight on Janus. Hold.
Bellona is here, alone.
So the big waves are coming.
Yeah, get ready, because right is pushing in.
Agni dash down.
Did some good poke,
I'm
good poke.
ulting
We
Janus,
gotta
I'm
go in.
ulting Janus. Janus is dead, Janus is dead. Nemesis ult down. Big huge waves are coming. They can't clear the wave. Just push it, Titan.
Huge. I should have daggered actually and see how much damage it would do. Alright, I think maybe I'll hold here. Just keep it short today, because I'm I'm definitely feeling a bit off today, and I'll just take it on a win, man. I'll end on a win. It just doesn't make any sense. This has to be hotfixed, I think. It's just way too game-breaking. Oh shit, I got a pumpkin, boys. Just need 2 more. How do you need so many? I need 2 more for the Bari skin, man. I've been playing the game for a month, and I've got 1. I'm not farming these fuckers. Do a pumpkin stream at one point. Just farm candy. You can't farm them? Wait, you can't farm them? Did not feel like a 90k game? It doesn't. It really didn't. But every single 2 that I hit late game will do like 2k damage. So that's like the number is gonna go up very fast. It's like, imagine hitting a Kukan ult every like 5 seconds, you know, or every like 15 seconds. That's literally how much damage it does. I cannot. There's no way they didn't check. Like, he wasn't tested properly, that's for sure. He feels like he's bugged. But yeah. Alright, guys. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will... I don't know. I don't know if I'll stream tomorrow. If I'm in the mood, I'll stream. But maybe I'll take another day off and then just be back on Monday and Tuesday. But yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.